And we're at verse 10. After Jesus called the crowd to him, he said to them, "Hear and understand. It is not what enters into the mouth that defiles the man, but what proceeds out of the mouth, which this defiles the man." Then the disciples came and said to him, "Do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this statement?" But he answered and said, "Every plant which my heavenly Father did not plant shall be uprooted. Let them alone. They are blind guides of the blind. And if the blind man guides the blind man, both will fall into a pit." Peter said to him, "Explain the parable to us." Jesus said, "Are you still lacking in understanding also? Do you not understand that everything that goes into the mouth passes into the stomach and is eliminated? But the things that proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and those defile the man. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, slanders. These are the things which defile the man, but to eat with unwashed hands does not defile the man." Okay, according to those who have studied it, the Jews, they had a procedure, no matter if their hands are dirty or not. It was kind of a ceremonial type washing of their hands. And they just couldn't believe that Jesus ate without washing his hands in that particular way. And he makes a statement that it's not what you eat that defiles you, it's what comes out of the heart. That's what defiles a person. It's not whether your hands are perfectly clean or not, because your hands didn't necessarily have to be dirty for them to require that you had to wash your hands a certain way. Brother Tim Smith, he told one time that he was supposed to rub so many times one way and so many times another way, and it's quite a procedure. And a lot of it had to do with show, to be seen more than anything else. And it kind of like the Jews were pretty, especially the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they were pretty big on doing things for show. Several occasions Jesus criticized them, said, "You stand on the street corner and you make long prayers." They announced whenever they gave gifts at the temple, they announced how much money they gave. They wore prayer boxes on their head and around on their wrist, and you made the bigger the box, leather box or pouch, supposedly the more prayers, the more scriptures you read each day. I don't know about the new translation, but the King James had a $10 word for it. He called it a phylactery, which is a fancy word for a leather pouch. But they did many things for show. It says they made the hems of their coat so. These things were to make them look and everyone to know that they thought they were religious, that they were righteous. You've got your reward in this life. Yes. And there are groups today, different groups of people that when you see someone of that group, well, you know exactly what kind of person, where they attend at, don't you? And I often wonder, is it for modesty's sake, or is it for show, to show that they are religious? Some of them, the men and women both, wear different kinds of clothes. Others, just the ladies do. But it's all it seems to be in appearance for everyone to know that, hey, that person, they're a religious person, because I can tell by the clothes they got on. That's what Jesus is preaching against here. Not Now, he doesn't want us to go around naked. We got to be modest. But anyway, it's not what kind of clothes we got on or whether our hands are clean. It's what comes out of the heart. That's what makes a difference. That's what makes the difference. It's the way that we think and the way that we act and the way that we proceed with our everyday lives from the inside. Not whether we got on the best clothes in town or a certain style of clothes, certain haircuts, you know. Now, Leland's got a whole bunch of questions on these next few verses, so if anybody's got any answers, well, he wants to hear your answers. Says, Jesus went away from there and withdrew into the district of Tyre and Sidon. And a Canaanite woman from that region came out and began to cry out, saying, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is cruelly demon-possessed." But he did not answer her a word, and his disciples came and implored him, saying, "Send her away, because she keeps shouting at us." But he answered and said, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and began to bow down before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he answered and said, "It is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." But she said, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs feed on the crumbs which fall from their master's table." Then Jesus said to her, "O woman, your faith is great. It shall be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed at once. Now, at first glance, this seemed like Jesus being kind of cruel, doesn't it? Well, I said kind of cruel. I was trying to be nice, you know. Very cruel. But we got to stop and look at the culture that was in that day and time in that area. And it's still going to seem cruel, but to the main group of people that were around there, it was what was, for one thing, an unaccompanied woman didn't go up and ask a man a question, for one thing. That was a no-no. Second thing is, this woman is not a Jewish lady, so a Jewish man was to have nothing to do with Gentiles whatsoever, and especially an unaccompanied Gentile woman. Thirdly, who was the gospel supposed to come to first? The Jews or Israelites? The gospel came to the Jews first, then to the Samaritans, and then the Gentiles. So Jesus is just really making a statement that this lady understood, because of the culture of that time. You know, I'm not supposed to have anything to do with you. Besides, you're not supposed to take and throw the children's bread and give it to the dogs, because that's what the Jews thought of the Canaanite woman. They thought she was just like a dog.
But he just criticizes the Pharisees for all of these things that
Yes.
they believe that they add, or what they have added.
Okay? Don't you think he's testing her to see just how much she does believe? Okay, but okay, do I? Yeah, he was looking for her to give them a good answer, and she did. Well, you know what?
With the lepers too, he said, even whenever he did heal them, he said, don't talk about it because it's not time yet. He was sent, he mentions this here, he was sent with a very clear purpose, to fulfill Scripture, and he has to fulfill it the right way. Like you said, it's supposed to go to the Jews first. And also, if he gets to
I may out of order, but, you know, when he sees the Samaritan woman at the well, you know, he sent the disciples in town to buy bread. And I'm not sure if this is, I've forgotten exactly what order this happened, but anyway, they come back and they are amazed he's even talking to this woman. And then this is a lady that, you know, she's, what about, where's your husband at? You know, you're supposed to be accompanied by a husband. Well, don't have a husband. You know, when he said, you've said rightly, you've been married, I forget, 6 or 7 times, and the man you got now is not even your husband. And she goes back to town and said, come see the guy that told me everything I ever done. Now, what do you got, Leland?
I don't know if this lady is a Gentile or a Samaritan.
Well, it just says a Canaanite woman, I think, well, mine does, which would probably make her a Gentile.
Okay. Now, when we go over to, they cross the lake and the account of Jesus casting the demon into the herd of swine that runs off a cliff.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to perceive that community is non-Jewish since they're dealing with swine. And here's this madman terrorizing everybody, and Jesus takes the spirits out, and, you know, Jesus sits down and has a conversation with him.
Well, is everybody in that town
I don't know.
Gentile, or because remember the Jews settled on both sides originally. Remember,
Yep, I understand.
so, but I'm not sure it tells us whether the man who was demon possessed, whether he was a Jewish person or whether he was a Gentile. But somebody there definitely was Gentile because there's 2,000 hogs running around and they're watching them. And if you got 2,000 hogs, you got to have a market for 2,000 hogs. You know, or you need to have it, put that way.
This lady isn't requesting the gospel.
No, you're right.
She's asking for a miracle on behalf of her daughter.
Yes.
So I don't see that being out of line as a request as Jesus is passing through.
Okay.
And, you know, I hope that he says this for his disciples' sake. You know, because we perceive God as a loving God.
Yes.
And all through the Old Testament, you know, he was kind to those non-Jews that followed him.
Okay.
You know, I don't know where this lady falls. You know, but like I say, to me, it's a very harsh statement.
But as Cheryl pointed, I believe Cheryl pointed out, this may have been for not only for her but also for his disciples also, that show that eventually things would come to the Gentiles too, because you know. But he makes the statement that they expected him to make.
She knew who the Lord was,
Yeah, she knew.
but she also knew her place in society.
Yeah. She.
And she did everything that Moses did.
Yeah. See, he says she knew who the Lord was, but she also knew her place in society as far as her relationship to a Jewish man, which was, yeah, but even the dogs get to eat the crumbs, see. But see, yeah, but she's got a sick daughter that's got demon possession. She's willing to do almost anything.
Oh, and every one of us are. If we
Yes.
have a child that's, you know, we'll go to no ends.
Yes.
And, you know, to me, this lady is doing exactly what we would do, exactly what any parent should do. And, you know, I just,
But he does make a very hard statement. Yeah, that's right. You know, he does make a very hard statement, and it's. I'm sure he had a reason for it, but like I say, whether it's to test her faith or to test the disciples.
Show the disciples,
Yeah.
even the
Yeah, to show the disciples that even the Gentiles are going to get benefited. I don't know, but he does make a very hard statement.
You know, and he looks at those that are actually crucifying him and says, Father, please forgive them.
Yeah, and they
Then he refers to her as a dog.
yes,
I think that Matthew's account is the only place where this incident is recorded. And seeing that Matthew wrote more from the viewpoint of the Jew, Luke was more Gentile, you know, and each of the four Gospels has a little bit different slant on the Gospel and on the life of Jesus. But Matthew, being a Jew himself and writing from the Jewish point of view, really, it's, I think, very glaring that he is the one that reports this. And I do agree with the statement about the fact that it's written more for his disciples and the Jews among his disciples to, even though his statements seem to be harsh and unaccepting, at the end, he is accepting.
yeah.
And he is opening the eyes of everyone to the fact that the gospel is for the Gentiles as well.
Okay. And Colin, he wrote a good point there a while ago. That Jesus has a hard enough time getting the message out because everybody is looking for free food and health care. Sound like today, doesn't it? And it's hard to get anybody to listen when even those that aren't sick are coming for the show, for lack of a better word. And so if he expands his audience to not only Jews but also Gentiles alike, then pretty soon he won't be able to give out his lesson because he'll be fully engaged in feeding people and healing the sick. Because, this is a day and time where, there's doctors, but there's not too many remedies,
You know, she's crying after Jesus, petitioning Jesus.
Yes,
And his disciples say, send her away.
send her away, yeah.
And then that statement that he makes, I think he's talking to her when he says, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel.
Yes,
Which is basically, leave us alone.
yeah,
Well, Mark says it just a little different. Said, let the children be satisfied first, for it's not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs.
okay,
So that's saying it, that's basically saying the same thing, but not quite as harsh.
well, not as harsh, okay, Let's eat let the children eat first, and Phil, you got something?
But there at the end, when it's all said and done, look what compliment he gave.
Yeah.
Look how great your faith is.
You got great faith, and I think,
Very many people he said to.
I see, I really think, Leland, that he makes such a harsh statement is to test her and show how great her faith is, and that shows her faith to the disciples.
But it is a centurion that comes and I don't remember if it's a son or if it's a slave or whatever that's ill
Yeah,
and he says, no, you don't have to come to my house. You can just say the word. And he's talking to a Gentile, and I think that's followed up by Christ saying, there's no greater faith in Israel than this guy's
Yeah.
got.
but I think the centurion also had he had a good report among the Jews, even though he wasn't a proselyte and he was a Gentile, but he gave lots of gifts and things to the Jewish people, and I think that he had a good relationship with them. He wasn't like he was out there in left field, being mean to being part of the government and part of the army, he went out there oppressing the Jewish people. Any other questions or comments on that? That answer all your questions, or is still just is clear as mud?
No, it's just, that's one of those sections that's always been hard for me to look at and see the Jesus that I see in my mind,
Okay, yeah.
because it seems hard.
But like Bill said, in the end, he does exactly what she asks. And I think he says it in a hard way to test her and just see just how dedicated she is. But, you know, and of course there are those who still profess to have faith healings today, and they point this way, you know, if someone can't be healed, well, they don't have enough faith. The person who was sick, the person who was possessed with demons, she wasn't there. It was somebody else that had the faith. Her mother was the one that had the faith. But the person who got healed doesn't say that. She didn't know nothing about what was going on, did she?
Jesus knew what the outcome was going to be.
Yeah, he knew what the outcome was going to be, yes.
It was for those that were with him. It also contrasted the faith of the people that should have had better faith in him.
Okay.
The Pharisees that knew, and the Jews that knew, didn't have faith in him.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
We're supposed to pray for the sick now, too.
Do what now?
So we pray for everybody that's sick now, and they don't know we're praying for them.
That's right.
Same way.
You're right. Departing from there, Jesus went along by the Sea of Galilee, and having gone up on the mountain, he was sitting there. And large crowds came to him, bringing with them those who were lame, crippled. Now, Leland, I got a question for you. What's the difference between lame and crippled?
One of them limps, the other one doesn't.
Okay, one of them can't walk at all. Okay. Blind, mute, and many others, and they laid them down at his feet, and he healed them. So the crowd marveled as they saw the mute speaking, the crippled restored, and the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they glorified the God of Israel. So he went up there, and he went along by the sea, and he gets up on the mountain. And they bring people to him, and he heals them all. Say that he has a hard time bringing out his message because of people who they are in dire need of physical help, but they're much more in need of spiritual help. They just don't realize it. Much like us today, we can see the physical difficulties real easy that people have, don't we? We mentioned several, and I'm sure I left some out. That were this congregation, you are ill, have procedures coming, have different ailments. We can see those real easy, but sometimes we skip over the ones that they've got a spiritual illness that we need to help them and maybe help them, encourage them, and get them back on the right track. Let's stop there. Today is the 16th, so next week will be the 23rd. We'll start there on verse 32, where Jesus is going to feed 4,000.